But now we're going to go to Andrew Gibbons if he's around. So, Andrew, I'm just going to start introducing Andrew and hope that he's popping up. So, great, I can see him. He's back in the shed. So, Andrew, we'll really welcome you to present to the panel. Andrew's a cropping farmer in the Great Southern Region near Katanning in Western Australia, and he was a participant in the Carbon Plus Biodiversity program that the Australian government ran, I think, from 2021, and it's sort of an ongoing project. So he's joining us to provide us with a very important farmer's perspective of carbon and nature markets and what should come next. So thanks so much for joining us, Andrew.
Thanks very much for that. And thanks to presenters so far. It's been quite good to note that there's a lot of tie-in with many of the things that have been concerns and goals for me as well, particularly with the idea of stacking credits and quantifying environmental benefits and biodiversity, because it's one of the hurdles at the moment. So my particular project, I'm a small landholder. I've got about 175 hectares that I manage, but I do a lot of contracting for much bigger enterprises than mine, and I see out there an appetite to revegetate and more of an appetite for biodiverse revegetation. But most of the landholders that I work with really don't have the skills nor the time to do it. So I started my project specifically because I wanted to rehabilitate the piece of land that I'm working on. And I've taken an approach to do it as much as possible on my own to learn as much about it, so that I can then start filtering that information back out to my clients in order to assist them to start taking it on. And I even potentially see business opportunities for people around the area to contract doing this work, because many of the landholders are keen enough to do it that they would happily just pay someone that knows what they're doing to come and do it for them in the right places. And sort of some specific targets that most farmers have is inefficient areas on their farms. There's a lot of them out there, particularly as machinery's got bigger, and small pockets of the land that were cleared have become inaccessible, and they're now not very useful, but they're still being farmed because they're there. You probably actually break even on them at best. So there's a lot of area there that's available for this type of environmental work, if the landholders can make it happen in a way that fits their business. So Rachel, if you've got that photo I sent of the farm map that you could potentially put up there.
Yeah, I'll just see. Trish, did you get that? I emailed it through to you. So she's got it. She's going to bring it up.
Cool.
Here we go. So I don't know if you'll be able
to
see it.
This is just very... This is just very randomly a photo I took from the farm map that is on the shed wall of the client's property that I'm on today. And within that, you see all the shaded areas, they're non-arable areas within the paddocks. And the general thing you can look at is that anything that has curves or long skinny triangles is horrendously inefficient to farm. At this particular property, most of those non-arable areas rocky outcrops and stuff, so they're actually never going to be arable. They may or may not have some vegetation on them currently, but they all represent areas that are potential targets for improving biodiversity on farms. And given that my particular area tends to run about only 8 to 12% remnant vegetation remaining, there's a lot of scope there to increase that. So these are the sort of things that, but need the, this is why there's the stacking of, there's a great amount of risk just being involved solely in the carbon market. It takes a long time to generate your carbon credits. In 25 years, who knows if they're still going to be worth anything. And the other model potentially is agroforestry. I would really not like to see that happen. Effectively, that's just broadacre agriculture of a different crop on cleared land. It's not restoring biodiversity. And most farmers would be hesitant to take that on because they've had poor experiences with agroforestry in the past as well, because by the time it got to harvest, the land that they'd locked up in it, which they got very little return from, is now covered in a crop that's become a liability and is actually going to cost them money to harvest. So these are all sort of concerns for landholders, and I think the biodiversity market and being able to quantify it and support it is something that can generate a lot of good outcomes within a very degraded environment. I'll probably most of the rest of what I've got to say would probably come into question and answer. If there's anything specifically that you wanted me to touch on, I'm happy to do it now. But that's sort of the background of my reasons and what I hear in the wider farming community.
Fantastic, Andrew. Thanks for giving us your perspective on that. I suppose just in terms of the Carbon Plus Biodiversity program that you participated in with the Australian government, how did you find the process with that? Did you find it easy, and what were people talking to you when those offers were sort of being made in the region?
One of the best things about it was how user friendly I found it. I've given feedback quite consistently about the mapping tools and the reporting tools, that they are one of the big advantages of that system. They've been quite keen to investigate was the process of registering with the Clean Energy Regulator and doing all of that, because if you've got no background in it and you go and you have a look and you start looking up how to get into the carbon market, you come across carbon service providers. And it looks way too complicated, and within about 10 minutes you just go, no, I really don't think that fits my business, I'm not going to bother. But having actually done it myself, it's a little bit clunky, but it's not difficult, and there's no real obstacle for somebody to just actually do it themselves.